have never seen this before in my entire life. The speaker at the end of his presentation got booed because it was so good that the audience wanted more. The audience was even chanting, "We want more, we want more." I've never seen anything like it. I was in London. I was at this speaking engagement. I got to speak to an audience of about 500 people at AdCon. It was incredible. Shared the stage with Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO, Ali Abdal. He has an incredible YouTube channel. And there was this one speaker who I'd never heard of before, but man, did he blow my mind. And I'm going to share with you what he did in his presentation that I learned that you can apply to whether you're speaking on stages or in your YouTube videos, in your content, in how you even speak to people face to face. This is going to change your communication and your presentation style. Check this out. So the speaker's name is David J.P. Phillips. He has a book called High on Life, which I downloaded immediately. And what was so cool is, and this wasn't part of his presentation, but I happened to have dinner with him the night before. All of the speakers got together for dinner and he happened to be sitting across from me. So I asked him what he did. He told me about his book, High on Life, and he was sharing that to research for this book and to study, he basically spent 6 months in each of the neurochemicals or the hormones that we have in our body. So he's like, I spent 6 months in dopamine. I spent 6 months in serotonin. I spent 6 months in testosterone. And so he was experimenting with these chemicals to then be able to write this book where he's studying all the neurochemicals and how they influence our emotions and our behaviors, namely dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and testosterone. And it was very clear that he knew how to use these to his benefit during his presentation because the whole audience was just so captivated, almost in pain with how good it was at times. And he even warned us how he was going to emotionally manipulate us to get a certain reaction out of us. So make sure that if you take these tips, you use these strategies for good. So on stage, he went through all the different chemicals. So first he talked about dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical. You know the Greek mythology, Sisyphus, he's like pushing the boulder up the mountain, up the hill. And it's like this constant push, this constant grind to get there, and almost feels like this never ending, but it's the anticipation of the reward, that dopamine rush that gets you to push through. And of course, if you study things like flow state, having resistance is important to get into the release of dopamine and get into a flow state. But what's important to know is that you can't get that big dopamine rush until you actually go through that resistance, that struggle. It's like if you ever hear stories about rich people that inherited their wealth, and maybe you hear that some of them, they're not as happy as people that understand the pursuit of the goal, and that happiness actually comes from the effort, not from the attainment of it. And that's because you get this big dopamine rush, that reward at the end of a challenge. When you're aiming for, you want that reward chemical of dopamine, the biggest dopamine rush is going to come from when you actually surrender to the resistance and get yourself to a place of liking it. When you actually come to like it instead of fighting it the whole time, like you're not just like, oh, I hate this, I can't wait for this to be over. Then it's more of a relief. The relief isn't the same as the dopamine of like, I freaking did it. You know that feeling when you push through something that even when it's hard, you're just like, you're so proud of yourself, and chemically what's going on in your body is you're rewarded. It reminds me of a time where I was doing a cold plunge, my first ice bath. I'd never done one before, and of course I resisted. I was like, ice bath, that sounds awful. Like, why would I want to sit in freezing water? But of course you hear all these health benefits and mental benefits from it. Well, and the big reason why is because you get such a big dopamine rush after it. So I was actually at this retreat, and there was a biohacking coach walking me through it. And he said something to me that I'll never forget. And I've come back to this whenever I'm, maybe going through a challenge, whether it's in work or whether it's in relationships or something. He said, you're not ready to get out until you've accepted it. And that's so aligned with what David J.P. Phillips said as well, of coming to a place where you actually like it, you actually enjoy it. That is going to give you the bigger dopamine rush. And so I thought about that in other areas of my life. What are other things that I might be resisting or having an expectation that like maybe it's supposed to be a different way, and learning to surrender to the fact of it's the pursuit that's actually the pleasure. It's the journey, not the destination. That like once I get to that outcome, it'll be better. Once I reach that goal, it'll be a relief. Instead, I'm enjoying the climb. I'm enjoying the grind. This is part of the pursuit that we, as entrepreneurs, it's easy to become addicted to hard things or addicted to chaos. But accepting the fact that we can do hard things, knowing that on the other end of it is a dopamine rush, and then it's new level, new devil. I think that's the biggest biggest problem entrepreneurs have is the expectation that there shouldn't be any. And that bliss, success, isn't the absence of problems, but the mindset of knowing that I can accomplish anything despite them. So that was really such a good reminder that I need to have for myself. And once he explained that, he talked about how to use dopamine in your funnels, where to use dopamine in your funnels, where to use dopamine in your conversations with people. So you're eliciting that release, that emotion, that neurochemical that's going to create that attachment with people. And so it was really cool. He showed some videos that created that different kind of chemical response. So for this example, when he was on stage, he showed the video of Susan Boyle when she was a contestant on Britain's Got Talent or something like that. So she comes up on stage, and if you've seen this, hopefully you've seen this before. If not, go check it out on YouTube right after this. And you see the audience kind of like snickering because she's a little frumpy looking, and no one expected that she was going to be this incredible singer. And it was also funny because before he showed the video, he's like, okay, this is going to be a demonstration of dopamine. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to go through this together. We're going to climb this high together. It's going to feel amazing. And then it's going to be painful for a moment. And then it's going to be amazing again. Just imagine watching a video where you're seeing this person on the rise. You're living vicariously through them. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So incredible. And then he paused the video right at the climax of the video. And we're like, no. And there was the pain that he warned us about. We were about to reach this high, this climax. This is a PG channel, and the audience just going crazy. It was so funny. And he told us, he's like, witness what just happened there. We're so close to achieving climax together. Those were actually his words. And then I turned it off, which is pretty painful, right? And you feel that longing for the dopamine rush, that reward that was right on the other side of it. So all that to say that whether you're creating a piece of content or you're creating a funnel, you want to give your audience this anticipation of reward on the other side. And you'll see this a lot in movies too, where you're seeing the climb, the build of the protagonist, that you're living vicariously through them, and you feel the anticipation. And when this conflict comes in the way, you feel frustrated. You're like, oh no, why did the bad guy have to jump in? Why did he take that path? What, you know? So think about how you can create this kind of dopamine response for your audience in your content, in your funnels, in your marketing, in your communication. The next neurochemical that he spoke to was oxytocin, which many of us know as the bonding chemical. So, you know, when you're affectionate with someone, or when a woman has a baby, this just flood of neurochemicals just floods your body. When from stage he showed a video of a boy seeing color for the first time. Like, just think of how tender that moment would be, the first time seeing color. Like, I can't even begin to imagine the real emotions of that. And if you've seen it or something like it, the boy, he puts on these glasses for the first time, and 2 seconds later he is just bawling. And many of us in the audience were as well. And so what this does is it creates this empathy and trust and connection. So if you can have a video like that that's going to trigger that emotion for your audience and bond them to you, or even, this is another tip that he gave, was that before you go on stage, look at a picture of your family, or maybe you have a video that similar to the boy seeing color for the first time that gives you that oxytocin rush, that before you go on stage or before you do a presentation or before you make a video, you have that oxytocin in your body that's going to create more of that bonding energy in your content. And then the third and final neurochemical that he talked about from stage was testosterone, which testosterone leads to a lot of confidence. Of course, you know, you think about like aggression or, you know, just the ability to be persistent. And so the video he showed for that, and of course it was a speaking engagement in London, and over there they love their football, which in America we would call soccer, but he showed a video of some huge goals, and he talked about some of the stats. So this was really interesting. He said that the people who increase testosterone before a job interview are the people who are more likely to get the job, and the people who can increase testosterone before negotiation are more likely to get a higher bid, or the people that can increase testosterone before maybe doing a presentation in school are likely to get a higher grade. And so if you can get this like full blast of testosterone, and if you can also combine that with oxytocin, that you're confident and loving and connecting and bonding, I mean, imagine how you can show up in your communication with somebody. And what he talked about with testosterone is that each victory in life continues to increase testosterone. And he also showed that there's some exercises that you can do to increase testosterone. So sometimes it's just things like, you know, body movements. He did this thing where he was walking around the stage. You might have heard of like the Superman pose, like that can kind of bring confidence in you, but he was like walking around the stage, kind of just like open body, like waving kind of his hands towards himself, almost as if he's like, come at me, you know, that's what made me think of like, come at me, bro. And then did some kind of like deep breath exercises, like Nobody stitched this video. And then also having some big hyped up music. And then at the end doing this like primal scream. So I wonder if we freaked out the people down the hallway, but the whole room just primal screamed. It felt amazing. And so he said that this is what will increase your testosterone before you go into something. And even your voice will sound different when you do that. It was absolutely incredible. You guys got to consider this when you're creating content, when you're creating your funnels, where you can try to create this neurochemical release in the different places on the page, that you're creating the anticipation of reward, you're creating the bonding, you're creating the confident feeling that they're like gonna go after it, get at it. I have never seen anything like it. I've never seen someone on stage get booed because it was so good. The whole audience started chanting, "We want more, we want." Can you imagine being booed when your countdown timer is over? Like when you're out of time and the people just wanted more. I mean, what an incredible moment for him. I filmed it and I sent that video to him, and now I can't wait to read his book, because what I saw from him on stage and 30 minutes or whatever, like that was just a glimpse of what he does, and also incredible evidence of that all it takes is being able to present to people and speak well and create a connection and give them this emotional journey to go through and an emotional epiphany at the end of it. And now I'm like, I'm gonna read his book. I'm telling you guys his story. I'm taking the time to make a whole video about it. I'm sharing it with so many people. Your content can do that too. Your content can build a reputation like that. The difference is your content can be on the world stage. Like your YouTube channel is like having a keynote presentation 24/7 instead of like, okay, I got asked to speak at an event, I got to get on a plane, I got to fly to London. But your content can do the same. You can build that reputation, and each piece of content you put out can build that reputation, that then your content becomes bingeable, that people will watch one video to the next, to the next, to the next, that they go, I love this so much, I need to buy this book, I need to buy the course, I need to read every single email that comes out. All of it starts with exposure to you, your ideas, and if you can take some of that inspiration and pull out some of those neurochemicals while you're speaking to people, dopamine, that reward chemical, oxytocin, the bonding, the connection chemical, testosterone, the confidence chemical, you will crush it. And I want to help you make sure of it with your content strategy. So if you click here, I'm going to send you to my video that shows you how to make your content work harder than you do to turn your content into a lead generating machine. I will see you there.